Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakal double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth with sincerity. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there on the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. I was going to do a lesson on the streets, but then I saw punk police was in the area where I would normally teach, and I'm like, man, I ain't here to fuck with the punk police, give them a reason to fuck with me, So, I'll be back anyways. I just, sometimes you make decisions like that because it is a risk to go into them cities, especially if you're a one-man camp like I am. And so if it happens to you, then that entire camp is lost for that city. And then, that's one last prophet on the street. And, well, we need to be on the streets. So, just, you do what you can, just shuffle around, don't attract yourself too much, giving them a reason to fuck with you. Not that we're doing anything wrong, but, we're not trying to create a lot of attention. That's why we're not marching down the streets and protesting things, because these Edomites, man, they're going to do what they're going to do anyways, So, as Brother Kazat had put it out, of course, we send our prayers out to our camp, Tampa Bay, as well as the rest that are in Florida and the areas, because we know this Hurricane Michael is coming up that way. We always pray for our camp, and the rest, man, the 2/3. Of course, the wicked. We pray that the Most High destroys them, because ultimately this place has to be brought down in order for new. So we got the Hurricane Michael going on, as well as the fact that, Russia and Gomer, MaGog and Gomer, are working together to rid Al-Nusra front from the terrorist groups in the Idlib province, and moving the weapons out of the de-escalation zone, pretty much. So that way the Idlib province can be liberated from the... And of course, there's been a media blockout big time on the operations going on in Syria. But another move has just happened, fulfilling Ezekiel prophecy, and we'll get into that a bit as well. Libya is now being protected. Russia is moving in to protect Libya from the terrorists, the UN, NATO, and the United States, because it was those terrorists that they used Libya to move the terrorists into Syria. You see, if they cut off that port, that isolates, of course, Saudi Arabia. But then Donald J. Trump most recently pissed them off too by saying that they needed to pay their dues. And the Saudi prince said, look, motherfucker, we've already fucking paid. Paraphrasing here. It's like, man, we more than paid our fucking dues, But, so, Donald J. Trump, proud and boastful, the face of Esau, Edom. I'm just going to read out the book of Nahum, chapter 3 here. The city of bloodshed, utterly deceitful, full of booty, no end to the plunder. The crack of whip and rumble of wheel, galloping horse and bounding chariot. Charlotte, bounding Charlotte. Horsemen charging, flashing sword and glittering spear. Piles of dead, heaps of corpses, dead bodies without end. They stumble over the bodies because of the countless debauches of the prostitute, which is talking about America, Babylon the Great. Gracefully alluring mistress of sorcery, who enslaves nations through her debaucheries and people through her sorcery. And so the Most High is against this place. That's why Russia is now gathering pretty much against Esau, so-called white men, which is the other half of the Edomites, but is being a guard unto these places because he's about to destroy Babylon the Great. I'm against you, saith the Lord of hosts, and will lift up your skirts over your face. And that's what's happening now with Nikki Haley resigning, the fact that, this place has been exposed, for the whole ISIS operation that It was the United States that created ISIS. You know, there's a great video of Vladimir Putin where he says, well, whose idea was it to arm the rebels against the government of Syria? Who gave him the armaments, you know? Talking about ISIS. And I will let nations look on your nakedness. I am against you, the Lord of hosts, and will lift up your skirts over your face, and I will let the nations look on your nakedness and kingdoms on your shame. And that's what's happening now. America's being shamed for all the terrorism in the world. Everybody knows that the number one terrorist of the world is America, Babylon the Great. I will throw filth at you and treat you with contempt and make you a spectacle. And that's what's happening now. America is at the forefront of everything. You know, many nations already call it Great Satan, which it is the Great Satan because it's the great adversary to all the other worlds. The other countries would be prosperous now if it wasn't for America. Then all who will see you will shrink from you and say, Nineveh is devastated. Who will bemoan her? Which modern day Nineveh is America. Where shall I seek comforters for you? And you better than Tebas that will say, sat by the Nile with water around her, rampart, a sea. You know, and what's part of the so-called national anthem? For the ramparts we march, you know, which is talking about how this place was conquered from sea to shining sea. Pretty much, you know, these terrorists who took the land from our people, you know, it started with Ephraim, which is, you know, we just exposed Christopher Cologne, you know, went into all the atrocities that he did, you know, because that's what we're to do. When the Edomites celebrate wicked leaders, then what we do, we expose their wickedness. And all these other countries know that Christopher Cologne was, in fact, a terrorist, you know, and they even deem him as a terrorist because, you know, our people, Ephraim, were peaceful upon him, you know, but he took us down anyways. Ethiopia was her strength, Egypt too, and without limit for put, and the Libyans were her helpers. Yeah, Libya was conquered by the UN, NATO, and now it's going to be protected by Russia. You know, so America is the modern day Nineveh, as described in this chapter here. Yet she became an exile. She went into captivity. Even her infants were dashed in pieces at the head of every street. Lots were cast for her nobles. All her degenerates were bound in letters, in tetters. Yeah, or is it letter? Fetters. You will be drunken. You will go into hiding. And you will seek a refuge from the enemy, in which we know that Esau's going to hide in them underground bunkers. You know, he's planning this war, and he plans to hide himself from the face of him. From the face of him. Because he knows that Yahweh Shai is coming back. These elites know that. That's why Donald J. Trump has built that Space Force. He knows that the Most High is coming back, but he's convinced everybody else that it's going to be an alien invasion, when in fact that's the Most High, Yahweh Shai, and the angels coming back to sift through, to thrust through this place, to destroy it, to utterly burn her with fire. So now I'm just going to read out of the prophecy, because now that we see that the S-300 systems, actually S-400 systems, and Russia now protected Libya as they do with Syria. We know that they're protecting Persia. Persia already has the S-400 system, so does Gomer. So, you know, all this is coming into place. So eventually, the last little bit of Ethiopia, as mentioned in the book of Nahum, also mentioned here in Ezekiel 38. The word of the Lord came up to me, saying, set your face towards Gog, the land of MaGog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Prophesy against him and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I am against you, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. I will turn you around and put hooks into your jaws, and I will lead you out with your army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed in full armor, a great company, all of them with shield and buckler and wielding swords. So that's what's happening now. The Most High is drawing Putin, Gog, MaGog, to protect these countries. Persia, Ethiopia, and Put, which we know that that's Libya, are with them, all of them with buckler and helmet, Gomer and all of his troops. Beth Togarmah from the rightmost parts of the north, with all its troops, many peoples are with you. Be ready and keep ready, you, all the companies that are assembled around you, and hold yourselves in reserve for them. So pretty much what's happening now is that they're preparing their defenses. They're meeting their defenses to battle against America, Babylon the Great. And it's going to be a glorious time because of the fact that we know that in the meantime, the mark is being pushed. We can see, though, that, it's being enforced. And of course, they're going to use these, hurricanes and other things to put people into the FEMA camps so they can chip them ultimately, but also so they can pretty much put them in there, so that way they can kill off the weak, and keep because most of these people, they don't ever come back. Those that go to the shelters, they don't come back. They're killing people in the shelters. We already know that was exposed when a hurricane last year came into Houston. They were killing people in them shelters. So and so we know that pretty much Esau's coming to his end. So I'm going to read out Ezekiel chapter 39, starting in verse 11, because, a lot of people like to come up against us and say, oh, well, some Edomites are going to make it, not all of the Edomites will be destroyed. Now, 1,000 years captivity, and then this will happen. Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 11. On that day, I will give to Gog a place for burial in Israel. Who it's talking about? It's talking about the Edomites. Gog, MaGog is just another front of the Edomites because it was the last main battle. The valley of the travelers, east of the sea, it shall block the path of the travelers. For there, and you can say Edom, and all his horde will be buried. It shall be called the valley of Haman Gog. Haman. And you know that Haman was an Amalekite. So these goddamn Amalekites, these Edomites, will be buried there. So yes, they will serve 1,000 years captivity. 7 months the house of Israel shall spend burying them in order to cleanse the land. All the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall bring them honor on the day that I will show my glory, saith the Lord, our power. They will set apart men to pass through the land regularly on the face of the land, so as to cleanse it for 7 months. They shall make their search. So pretty much we're going to search up Esau and we're going to bury him. We're going to pretty much have him as a stockpile. Just going to burn him. As the searchers pass through the land, anyone who sees a human bone shall set up a sign by it until the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamon-Gog. A city of Hama is there also. They shall cleanse the land. So pretty much, Esau is going to be divided against Esau, king of diverse places, which include hurricanes. It can include volcanoes. And we see them popping off all over. We still have the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. And then over here in California, you have the big one here in my area, the Carr Fire. But then the Mendocino Fire had also passed that. You're seeing this all over the place. Now, the sword is still controlled. So I also believe that these fires were done on purpose, because if you look at the map of the Car Fire, you have the Delta Fire and the Hearst Fire all overlapping each other. So I believe that these were controlled burns. I don't believe the official story, even though at first it seemed like it, because I know how fucking reckless people drive around here, and that actually I can picture that happening. But then when you look at the trailer where the tire blew, you don't even see the burn marks on it. So I believe that this sword, Esau, the so-called white man, had purposely schemed this, because of course it's part of their depopulation agenda. Always has been. And do they control the weather? The Most High controls Esau, so in essence, the Most High is the one that's doing this. He's punishing the wicked, And so we can see that this mercy, the time of mercy is about to come to its end. But while it's still here, it's the time to be seeking this, As Apostle Tahar has put it many of times, your free time is really to go study the scriptures and to really seek out the kingdom. Because here in Babylon the Great, you have no future. Everything's dwindling down. Shit, man, it seems like almost all the time, though, that, whoever's represented the United States, that they replace them, especially during this Trump administration, which we know Trump is just another puppet of the Rothschild Rockefellers. And so they're deliberately crashing the system, bringing in that chip. And, pretty much the third woe is coming quickly. And that's what we're prophesying. That's what we're to bring out. We're looking forward to this. The days of our captivity, as we're in the winter solstice, while these wicked Edomites are celebrating, these festivities, we're in the house of mourning because of the fact that, you're barely getting by, just barely getting by. And the patience of us is that eventually we will be avenged for what Christopher Cologne and the rest of these Edomites had done to us. Which also Christopher Cologne was an Amalekite, You could pretty much call him Haman, And so we know that modern day Haman, that's Rothschild, still here to this day, seeking whose land they may devour next. But now Russia's coming up and being a shield unto them. They already destroyed Libya, but it's like, not happening again this time. Vladimir Putin had put it this way, and many times he says, this is when they wanted to come up against Syria. He says, look, we said nothing when you took out Iraq. We said nothing when we disagreed with it. We didn't interfere. But now Russia is interfering with any plan. So we're going to see them move in to protect Ethiopia, because that's what the prophecy says. And we already know that they're a guard unto Persia. And even Iraq, even though they don't want to talk about it, Iraq is being protected by Russia as well. So pretty much Esau, the whore, Babylon the Great, is being driven out of these lands. And it's a good thing to see. It's a good thing to see that finally, this evil, wicked rulership is about to come to its end. As, not many people are spokespeople for the United States very longer. I wonder who they're going to send in next as the so-called UN ambassador, replacing Haley. Of course, they're just going to be a big, fat fucking liar, because that's all America ever is. But again, they speak all these great things. And these other countries now see America for what it is, for their nakedness is being shown. And that's a good thing. So for that, I want to say, Brakatha Yahweh, Brakatha Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadas, Brakatha. I hope this has been edifying. Shalom.